is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
Good evening and welcome to the Late Late Tuesday Night Show. I'm Natalie Marr, and you can join me for the next hour where I'll be discussing tonight's hot topic: is radio dead, and do young people even care? With Dominic James.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
Hello and welcome to the show. I'm here on Teachers Talk Radio on the 9 till 10 alternate Tuesdays, and this is the Late Late Show with me, Natalie Marr. I cover a variety of topics live, and you can listen back to previous shows where I discuss the importance of co-curricular with Nicole Tremblay, where I've discussed gifted students and mental health with Sylvia Garrado Serrano, and recruitment and contention and women in leadership with Kelly Brown. Let me introduce myself to those of you who are new to my show. So I'm a drama specialist and director of drama with over 20 years teaching experience in various secondary school settings in Essex, in Hertfordshire, and in London. Alongside teaching full-time and examining with various exam boards, I have a fortnightly theatre review podcast, and that's called Theatre Audience Podcast. So welcome to everyone this evening. Tonight's topic is radio dead? And do young people even care? Tonight, I'm joined by Dominic James. He left the UK for the US in 2016, and after many years teaching drama and media studies, he now works in one of the largest high schools in the Midwest with nearly 6,000 students and some amazing facilities. Dominic, are you there?
I hope so. Can you hear me,
I
Natalie?
can hear you loud and clear. Welcome from the States. What time is it there?
Thank you so much. It is 5:03 in the afternoon. So I've just got off school
Yep.
and managed to drive home. And we've worked out the technology. Fantastic.
We have worked out the technology. Radio is alive.
Yes, it is. Everybody wants to listen to it. I'm not sure about young people.
And we've been joined by quite a few people in the studio, so hopefully they'll be inputting their messages with any questions they might have for you as the hour goes on. So yeah, talk to me about your school, your setting, these different approaches to creative learning.
Sure. Well, as you said in your introduction, I teach at one of the largest high schools in the Midwest. So we're based in Carmel in Indiana, which is about 10 miles north of Indianapolis. You may have heard of Indianapolis because it has a large racetrack and people go around it very, very fast. So that's what I guess it's famous for, this area. But Carmel High School, we have nearly 6,000 high school students.
Wow.
And that's from the equivalent to year 10. So year 10, year 11, year 12, and 13. So we only have 4 year groups within that time. So that's a vast number of students in each year group, nearly 1,500. Yeah. But, with the economies of scale, it means that there are so many kind of co-curriculars and, options that students can take that it's an extraordinary place. There are so many facilities, so many resources, and I'm lucky enough to run the radio station. Yes, we actually have FM radio station that literally is live 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. As an ex-teacher from the UK, it's beyond anything I've ever come across
beyond
in
your
my life.
wildest dreams and expectations.
Indeed.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
24 hours.
Yes, yes. So
So you work 24 hours?
Um, it kind of feels like that sometimes, for sure. But it's actually also termed as being student run. So although I am a teacher, my official role is actually the teacher advisor because the station is actually run by the students,
Uh-huh.
um, by the seniors who've been working at the station for 4 years. By which time they're all pretty competent at what they do, and also very confident, and they know how to run the place. So
That's incredible.
it is. So they do all the scheduling of all the live shows. They run the website that we have. They program the computer, which kind of keeps an automated system going when there's nobody actually live on air. So we have all the music pre-uploaded, which will run through the night and into the early morning until someone turns in at 7 o'clock to actually start doing their show. So it's an amazing setup, really amazing setup.
Wow. And so much sort of, do they have complete autonomy with what they broadcast? Like, how is it managed? How do you manage that?
Yeah. Um, well, we've just been interviewing students to be managers for next year, and one of the things we asked them is what are the strengths of the radio station, and almost every single one of them said the the ability to be autonomous, to actually be incredibly creative and choose the kind of work that you want to do. So it's kind of like a creative writing project. You can do whatever it is you want to do in the way that you want to do it. So although our station's format is alternative rock, so that's the basis of what we play. Um, Most students will maybe do a music show to do with out rock music, but a few of them will have some rap songs that they will play. Obviously, they have to be kind of monitored closely, but they do that themselves. They're mature enough and they understand the rules, so that they will never play an explicit version of a
Mm.
song. Um, we have lots of talk shows. So we have news shows where people kind of do a roundup of what's been going on during the week, talk about that for a week. Sorry, for an hour. We have kids doing reviews of local coffee shops, and believe me, there are a lot of coffee shops in the area. It's extraordinary.
So,
Um,
as in reviewing, like
so they will bring in some
service and
donuts and coffees and stuff like that, and they will talk about them live on air.
oh wow.
Yes,
So
and one
kind
of
of bit of
them,
sponsorship, bit of advertising, kind of
yes,
bit of
they
product
they go
placement wrapped in.
absolutely. One of them
Nice.
actually works as a barista as well, so she knows what she's talking about when she talks about how she observes how things are made and the smell and the taste of things. So it's actually quite an
Oh,
informative program, actually.
yeah.
How
So
about
sort of like the community.
yeah. We have other kids do film reviews. We have lots of people coming in to be interviewed. We have interviews with local political figures. Um, so there are all kinds of things. So it's kind of a mixture really between I suppose Radio One, Radio Two, and Radio Four.
Mm.
It's kind of because we have book review shows. We have authors coming in being interviewed. It's an extraordinary range of things that the kids do.
Wow. And I suppose, do they have the opportunity to showcase their own music if they were, a keen
Yeah.
songwriter and they've, pulled stuff together, recorded it with their band?
Absolutely, they do. We do that quite a lot. Actually, we had a kid on just last week who had just recorded his stuff and brought in the MP3s and played them on the station, and then talked about the process and what he's hoping to do with all that stuff and so on. And they also, there are a couple of shows that have weekly features where they bring in local musicians. Sometimes they're from the high school, but sometimes they're professional musicians or just local people.
Mm.
Um, and sometimes they will play their guitars live. Sometimes they'll just bring in a CD or an MP3 and we'll play it that way. So it's really kind of showcases the local community, which
Mm.
is the kind of stuff that I really love doing.
Yeah, I mean, and that's amazing. I'm just thinking from a director of drama perspective now. I'm thinking, so I guess there's, obviously links with the drama department, maybe an
Yeah,
opportunity to sort of showcase a snippet from rehearsal, come and see our show, or here's a couple of songs from the upcoming musical. Do you use it for promotion like that, or maybe one of the
we do.
students
Although
interviewing? different
Bizarrely,
characters.
not as much working with the performing arts department as I would like, which is odd for me because
Yeah,
I used to be head of drama and head of creative arts faculty,
yeah.
um, but because it's student run, it tends to kind of follow the interests of the kids. So we do quite a lot of promotion,
Mm.
and we do promote the plays and so on, but. I guess probably the area where we work most closely with are the sports in the school, and
Okay.
if you kind of think about the American high school experience and the the huge stadiums, you kind of think kids don't really play in those stadiums. They do. We have a stadium, our football stadium, and I mean American football. I don't mean soccer.
Mm. Yeah.
Seats 10,000 people.
Wow.
10,000 people, and I am not exaggerating when I
No,
say that there are
that's
regularly five or
incredible.
6,000 people there for an ordinary Friday night game.
And
Um,
that's basically your entire school, the 6,000 plus then
yes,
another 4
yeah, and so
parents.
I mean, if I think back to my time back in the UK, went to a soccer game or something, there might be maybe 20 or 30 people on the touchline.
Yeah,
Um,
just lying down the side, yeah.
just lined up, and just a few parents. But there might be a couple of your mates kind of watching as well who jeer at you from the sideline.
Mm.
But
For the
of
big
course,
local derby between,
yes,
the two rival schools, yeah.
that's right. Yeah, so that'll be a very special occasion to get anybody to come and watch. But there are literally 1,000 students there every Friday night,
Wow.
which is it's an extraordinary experience. And they all dress up. It's a different kind of dress up night every Friday. They have
Wow.
themes, and they have concession stands. So there are hot dogs and there are burgers and
And a
there's
review,
popcorn.
review,
Yes, yeah,
a review of the food.
yes, that's right. Um, uh, and uh, and of course, just before the football game takes place, we have the marching band. Now, I don't know if you kind of think about American Beauty, for example, if you think back
Mhm.
how the cheerleaders used to like vast numbers of cheerleaders kind of walking around, and you've got
Yeah.
the wind band playing as well. And we have
Mm.
400 or 500 kids before the game will actually be marching up and down, playing their instrument, playing their wind
Incredible.
instruments, and the cheerleaders are jumping around, and they're incredible gymnasts.
Yeah.
So
Oh, well, I've
it's
watched the whole of that, what was the Netflix series on, I can't remember
oh,
what it was
okay,
called. I got
yes,
really into that and,
yeah.
yeah, just the way that they drill that is, yeah,
So
you think I'd
that's
drill
not
my
just
choreography hard on a show? No. No,
yes,
not in
that's
comparison to
right.
this.
Yeah, they are ruthless. These choreographers. You're absolutely
Mm.
right. But the choreography is really really tight. Um, and it isn't just the stuff of Netflix. It happens in all high schools. It's incredible. Um, so so on the football team, there are 100 kids who are dressed ready to play, even though maybe only 30 of them actually get on the field. And so it is a massive community occasion. And actually, to think that there are maybe 2,000 kids actually all in the school in the stadium for a Friday night. It's kind of nice for your family or your parents to know that's
Yeah.
where your kids are. It
Yeah.
does help them grow up slowly, I think. It's kind of protected environment.
Yeah, but yet a really, huge social event.
Yes, yeah, it really is.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Especially having, we're just a few years out of COVID, and these kids would have been
yeah,
indoors for such a massive period of time, to then
yeah,
be on such a massive scale in huge stadiums. It must be a phenomenal
yeah.
experience,
Yeah, it
actually,
was. It's
to
obviously very
witness.
strange playing in virtually empty stadiums a couple of years ago.
Mm.
We also cover a lot of basketball games as well. Indiana is really big in the whole of the states for being a basketball state. And our basketball court has 5,000 seats in it. And
Wow.
it's just staggering. And on a big game, every seat will be full. And of course, if kids are used to playing in that, and then suddenly it's completely empty, and you can hear the echo of the ball bouncing on the floor. It's very strange. A couple of years ago, that's for
Mm.
sure. So it's great to be back, full blast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so how did the radio station continue through COVID, or did we have to
yeah.
go silent? What was?
Yeah, well, because we, sorry, I'll just gather that again. Just for a very short period of time, only a couple of weeks, I would say, when we really didn't know what to do when school, everybody was sent home. We just had the automated system going, and then we worked out kind of protocols, and just had, so even though all the kids were at home, we worked out a timetable for kids to come in, so they were just by themselves in the studio, and so we could continue to do various shows. Um, and then when we came back to school at the end in September or August, really, in America, the rules had slightly softened, so we were allowed to have kids being in the same room but apart from each other with a mask on and so on. So obviously we had fewer people doing everything at the same time, but we managed to get going again. So, but nothing stops radio students from broadcasting. I have learnt
No.
that to my cost sometimes. They will just keep on going. So the original question is, do students even care? You can probably pick up from
Clearly
what
they
I've
do.
just been saying. They really love it. It's a very,
Yeah.
very popular and an oversubscribed program. We have 200 students taking it, and that's all
Wow.
we can possibly fit in, with the hours we've got available in 24 hours. And so the kids, some of them are in at 6:30 in the morning, and a late football game or sports game might finish at 11 at night. And a lot of the kids come in during the weekend as well to do their live show, because they don't get a chance to have an hour by themselves during the school day.
That is
Um,
dedication.
it really is.
Yeah.
And do you know, it's that it really gives the kids the opportunity to get their teeth into something, and to take it seriously. And they have to make their own way to school. They are entrusted to make sure that their prep is good, because I'm not there checking everything that they do. But I can talk a little bit in a bit about how we get them into that situation. But it's when you talk about soft skills and skills for employability and things like that. These are just exactly what we're trying to get kids to do. They've become totally independent,
Yeah.
totally sensible, and they are doing uh, they're doing the equivalent to a job, really. Maybe not quite the same standard as a professional broadcaster, but they're doing the same thing, and they have to take the same responsibilities as a professional broadcaster, and such that the school actually entrusts them with the keys to the school, so they are allowed to enter the building all by themselves, go to the recording studios and the live studio by themselves, because they're given that much level of trust, because they take the job so seriously.
Wow. Hang on.
Yeah.
So they can let themselves into the school building
Yeah, yeah, and
without an
even
adult?
yes. So I don't know about you,
Alarm
Natalie,
bells.
but
Well, I just think about, all
yeah,
those rehearsals at weekends for the school
yes,
show where you have
yeah,
to, go through all the, making sure that there's caretakers on site, blah
yes,
blah blah, health and safety, and so the students are given the keys to the
yes,
school, and you've got equipment. Are they and they're locking up afterwards? All this
yes, yeah,
expensive. Wow.
yeah. It's amazing levels of trust,
Are there
and it doesn't
contracts
happen.
that have to be signed?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
all that stuff happens. There's a video camera on every corner, as you can
Yeah.
imagine, and and also everything they do is recorded. So they know all these things. They know that, and the kind of keys they have, the little fobs, which get recorded at which fob is used at what time, and when they enter the
Right.
building and so on. So um, it's not quite, they just let themselves in and out with a key. They are closely monitored, but of
Mm.
course, anybody can get up to nonsense, within an hour, can't they, if they wanted to? So,
Absolutely. But they know that, they know that, they lose the trust. That's it. They're out.
yeah,
That's it. And all
exactly
that
that.
freedom, that independence, that being treated like an adult essentially
Yes,
goes out the window.
exactly that. Yeah, and the station's actually been broadcasting since 1963.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, it's not a new thing, and it's got a very strong tradition. Great, and so many people in the Carmel community were part of the radio station, and the kids are proud of that, but they're also aware of that heritage and tradition, and they really don't want to mess it up for anybody else. They don't want to be the one
Mm.
makes the radio station, make the school lose its license, because they're very
Absolutely.
valuable things as well.
Yeah. It's so much as their show might be independent, completely on
Yeah,
their own, they don't want to let everyone else down, obviously.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And so, just coming back to those stadiums, the basketball, the
Hmm.
the American football. So do you have students go out and cover the sports
Yes.
event and report back live the scores, that kind of, how does that work?
So we have a something. It's actually called a Comrex device. So it's like a mixer. So we can actually have four microphones attached to it, and you can take it anywhere in the world. So
Oh,
I
wow.
can actually take it over to the UK next time I come over. Get on the
Hmm.
internet, and it will connect with our radio station. It is phenomenal. And it
Incredible.
just seems, and it's a professional broadcast quality piece of equipment. Um, but it just transforms what kids can do. So we cover um, 3 or 4 games at least every week. So that could be just down in our local, or our own stadium or our own basketball field house, or it could be 50 miles away or 100 miles away, covering one of the games somewhere else. So we can cover extraordinary numbers of games. So we over the course of the year we probably cover 200 games live on air.
Wow.
So we cover football, we cover boys soccer, girls soccer, softball, baseball, um, lacrosse, boys lacrosse, girls lacrosse. We've just started doing volleyball, and basketball, of course, which is a huge thing over here. So there are so many different sports that we actually do cover. And I've got about 30 students who are dedicated sports broadcasters, and they just have to take it in turns. And there are 4 of them on a crew. There's what we call the main person is the play-by-play, and the person that kind of jumps in every now and again to comments called the color. And then we have people doing pre-game shows, halftime shows, post-game shows, somebody in the studio. So there are 4 or 5 people involved in every sports broadcast. And of course, um, many young people just love talking about sports, and it's extraordinary the statistics that they can memorize about their own school teams is amazing. And if you know anything about American sports, they love their statistics. So if you watch
Mm.
any kind of baseball or basketball, they will constantly talk about the number of statistics. Well, at high school level as well, every single student from about the age of 16 has got an incredible file of statistics. So they can just click on a website which is devoted to student athletics, and it will tell you
Yeah.
how many times a quarterback has been knocked over by somebody else, and how many times he's thrown the ball and somebody else has caught it and intercepted it. It's incredible, and they have all the statistics for every school right across the state.
Oh, wow. So this isn't
Yeah,
just your own school team. This
no,
is the
this
stats on the
this is
the
everybody.
opposition. Oh,
Yeah, the
wow.
American schools really take their stats very, very seriously.
I
But of
mean,
course, there's a lot of money in it.
yeah.
Of
Oh,
course, if there are
absolutely.
5,000 people coming to a game,
Yeah.
you can imagine how
Mm,
much money they make, and they are charged for it. So it's unlike the UK, we just turn up.
mm.
They may be charged $5 or $10
What,
for a
this is
seat
at your school for a
at
seat
our
for one of
school.
these 10,000 seats in the
Yeah,
stadium? Yeah.
so they can make 50
Wow.
grand
Oh
on a
my
Friday night.
goodness.
Yes.
Which is how we can afford to have
Yeah, have all
the
these things.
stadium, these
Yeah,
facilities. This is where part of the funding comes from. I mean,
yeah,
that's incredible. Just that that website and the stats, this is college, this is school,
yes,
this is incredible.
yeah,
I mean, I know, I mean, the sport that I probably know the most about is golf, because my son's, golf
that's
college, he's
right.
17, he wants to be pro. And I know that when you go on the England golf, you can click on, different people, and then you can see their stats come up for that match, that game, that competition, or whatever. But I mean, that's incredible to be able to have all of that
Yes,
at
yeah,
college level,
yeah.
and just to be able to pull it up. I mean, I mean, this beats me on sports day on the microphone in my various
Yes.
school settings where I've always had to do the commentary, and I get shoved a piece of, paper which is getting wet in the rain.
I used to do
with,
exactly the
with
same.
who?
I loved
Yeah,
it.
I love it. I love it. Where you're told, that this is the school record for this race, and then as you're doing the commentary, you're like, oh, are they going to beat it? Yeah, and it's,
Yes.
but this is like a whole different level to actually have it all,
It is.
categorized.
Well, my commentary was fairly tongue in cheek. I don't know how you do
Yeah,
yours, but these kids take the whole thing very, very seriously.
yeah,
But
yeah,
part of this whole employability thing, these
yeah,
stadiums, we actually work in a media box, so or a media. It's a media room. It's a box is the wrong word completely,
yeah.
because all the coaches are up in the area. When I say all the coaches, there are about a dozen coaches for each team.
Right.
A dozen coaches for a high school
That's
game. It's
just.
incredible. And we
Mm,
sit behind them, and we sit next door to the professional radio station broadcasters. Yes, so the professionals actually broadcast high school games on the radio.
yeah.
And in the
This is
room
just.
next to
It's
us,
another world, isn't it?
the
It really
TV,
is.
the professional TV station is there filming and commentating on a high school game. It is
Yeah.
beyond our understanding, if you're a UK person. And in the other room, we've got I haven't actually mentioned, we have a TV station as well, of course. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so
So that's rolling with the set, like what you're rolling out in radio, I
yeah,
presume. Are
yes.
they rolling a similar television
It's
broadcast
similar. It
program?
is similar. Yeah, yeah. Because there's very much there's much more technology and kind of equipment involved in a TV broadcast. They don't tend to do away games like we do, because we can just put
No.
things in a briefcase and go.
Mm.
But it is extraordinary, the technology and the resources available. But because we're actually, as I was saying, we actually broadcast right next to professionals, and they get tips from the old guys. But often the old guys are actually asking the kids the information,
Yeah.
because they're there every week. They know how to
Yeah.
pronounce the names, and
Of course.
and it's fantastic. It's like an internship, but it's just kind of
Yes.
normal behaviour.
Wow. And yeah, it's foot in the door
It is,
massively,
yeah,
because they recognize you. So when you go and ask for work experience, I mean, I guess the work, you're already there doing it.
yeah, yeah,
You've got the work experience. They
yeah,
know you can do it, and then it's just the next step is come with us to this, or
exactly, yeah.
yeah,
It's lovely for them to see what's actually involved in a commercial broadcast as well, which is pretty much the same as what we do, but they have to throw in commercials and stuff like that as
mm,
well. And
mm.
yeah, it's
Well,
an amazing
that is.
experience.
Do you know what that leads us seamlessly, Dominic, seamlessly to that halfway point in my show where I hand over to listen to our John Catt Educational Sponsorship Partnership moment, which then leads into the news, and then we'll come back and talk maybe a little bit about censorship and and how you roll with that in terms of
Yeah.
the kids and content.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. So I'll
This
see
show
you
is
on the other
brought to you
side.
in partnership with John Catt Educational, a leading publisher of books, directories, educational guides, and magazines specifically aimed at forward-thinking schools in the UK and beyond. Have you checked out their latest releases? Don't miss out. Visit johncatbookshop.com to explore their full range of titles and advance your own professional development today. Happy reading. This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News. Schools Week reports the government is set to offer overseas teachers who come to England to teach languages or physics a £10,000 relocation premium under a new trial. The premium would be open to both trainee and established teachers working outside of the UK and would be paid at the end of their first term. Under the plan, there would be no need for the money to be paid back. The Department for Education said the trial could support up to 400 people to relocate, with the full cost adding up to £4 million. According to recent data, secondary school teacher recruitment targets have been missed for all but one of the past 10 years, and last year they fell short by 40%. The
pilot for this new programme will run in the next academic year. In strike action news, industrial action has been suspended by NEU members in Wales. The action is halted whilst a new pay offer is considered. In a statement reported on a range of media platforms, NEU leaders in Wales said that following discussions with the Welsh Government, a new revised and fully funded pay offer will be put to members. The planned strike for the 15th and 16th of March will now not take place, although these dates remain for action in England and will continue to go ahead as planned. The revised offer for those teaching in Wales is said to be worth a total of 11.8%. The offer will be voted on by members of the NEU in Wales via electronic ballot. NEU leaders Dr Mary Bowstead and Kevin Courtney thanked the Welsh Government for the constructive approach to finding a resolution and contrasted it with the behaviour of Gillian Keegan, England's Secretary of State for Education, who they said was preventing talks in England by refusing talking to ACAS. Teachers in Scotland who are members of the EIS union have also voted to accept their latest pay offer. This will see a 7% rise backdated to April 2022, a further 5% next month, and another 2% in January. NESUWT members in Scotland have yet to vote on the offer. Student loans are back in the spotlight after changes to the system. Channel 4 reports that student loan repayments will rise for those in the next cohort of students in England, as the repayment threshold is to be dropped. The government has said this makes the loan system fairer for taxpayers and students, whilst education experts say it will make low to middle income graduates worse off. Current students will only make 9% repayments when they earn over £27,295 a year, or £2,274 a month, or £524 a week in the UK. However, if you're starting an undergrad course or qualify for an advanced learner loan on or after August the 1st, 2023, those students will pay 9% of their income over the lower thresholds of £25,000 a year, £2,083 a month, or £480 per week. Students on the new plan won't be expected to make payments until April 2026, but the length of repayment is also changing. Current students pay until the debt is cleared or for 30 years, but new students will pay until the debt is cleared or for 40 years. Full details of the changes plus comments on the impact many believe it will have can be found on Channel 4's website, and all data has been subject to the outlet's fact-check system. Finally, a writer who wrote a book on the topic of online misogyny has given an interview to The Guardian. Laura Bates wrote Men Who Hate Women, The Extremism No One Is Talking About, and it was published in 2020. In the interview, she raises concerns about the widening gap between generations who have never known a world without the internet and those older generations struggling to understand and keep up. She talks in particular of the impact this is having on what she describes as the millions of girls who are realising the impossibility of escaping from harassment, revenge porn, deep fakes, and the difficulties in navigating a world online. Bates sees the problem in its broadest form, not just an issue with influencers like Andrew Tate. In fact, she says she wasn't even aware of him until last year. This, she says, is worrying in itself, as there is a danger that the well-intentioned coverage will only boost his profile, and that if and when his influence wanes, many will think it is a case of problem solved, when actually the problems and attitudes that give rise to people like Tate will continue. Full details of the article can be found on the Guardian website. This has been your Teachers Talk Radio News with Joe Fox. Brilliant. So, for those of you who have just joined us this evening, I'm Natalie Marr. This is the Late Late Tuesday Night Show, and I'm joined by Dominic James. He left the UK for the US in about 2016, and after many years teaching drama and media studies, he now works in one of the largest high schools in the Midwest, which has got nearly 6,000 students and some amazing facilities that we've been talking about in the first half of the show. So, welcome back. And we were going to talk about censorship. So the students have an amazing amount of independence and autonomy with regards to this 24-hour news feed that they're able to provide on this radio station within the college. How do we keep a check on content?
Yeah, it's good to be back here. Now, can you hear me, Natalie? Just
Yes, I can, loud and clear.
back here after the break. Great. So yeah, it's a bit of a monster, really. You know, you give students the opportunity to be creative and do what they want to do, but of course, it can turn badly very, very quickly. So it's all about the kind of preparation and I suppose the training in the first place. So before they're allowed to go into the studio by themselves, actually for almost the whole of the first year, it's actually quite an academic class that we teach. So we
Hmm.
teach them the skills of journalism fundamentally in the first year, and how to make sure that whatever you say is factual. It's well balanced, and it's been phrased in the right kind of way. We spend quite a lot of time looking at broadcast law. We discuss ethical issues and so on. So students spend a lot of time before they go anywhere near a live mic. Um, it's been instilled to them what they can and they can't say, the kind of words that they're allowed to use, the kind of music that they're allowed to play. And Indiana is actually quite a conservative state as well. It's not like California, which is maybe where we have a lot of American movies and so on. It's very conservative with a small c. Mike Pence lives just down the road, for example. This is one
Hmm.
of his, it's his state. So um, people have very traditional views in the community. People are very religious generally, um, whether they are Christian or Muslim and so on. There is there's a real sense of faith in the community. People take that that part of their lives very seriously, and they like good old fashioned apple pie values. And so we have to kind of take that on board as well with whatever we actually want to put out. So we have to be quite careful. So we talk to the students quite a lot about that in their first year. And while they're learning kind of how to use their voice and how to create audio production in recording booths, so they're kind of trying things out, but for no bigger audience than their own classmates. They kind of work out how to do things and how to speak and how to use all the equipment before they actually have the terrifying experience of going live on air in the live studio. So it's not like they're just thrown in there. They're given quite a long run in before they actually go out there. And
Mm.
I mean, it's impossible to tell how many people actually listen to the radio, um, because we're not a big enough station that people will actually do any proper surveys. Um, but I know that the most common time that people will listen to the radio is in their car radios,
Mm.
and we get a lot of people giving us feedback from their car radios or that they were listening to us on the car radio. We also have a website where we live stream things. So if you'd like, you could listen to us right now on whje.com. I have no idea who's broadcasting at the moment. I hope that's okay. Um, but
Maybe in 22 minutes time, obviously,
yes, absolutely. Um, but I can tell by looking at the website that our lowest, we always have like a background of 300 people listening at any one time just on the
Wow.
website.
Yeah.
And some of those people will be in the UK, some of those will be my friends, some of them will be my family in Australia. Um, but we have people living in Russia, in Korea,
Mm.
Kazakhstan. It's extraordinary the number of people we have listening to us all over the world. But if we have a big football game on a Friday night, there will be 5,000 people listening to us um,
Wow.
on the website, let alone on their radios.
Mm.
We have about a 10-mile um, area that people can listen to us from
Wow.
on air. So just about everybody in the Carmel City community and slightly beyond can listen to us.
And as a result of that, do you get some students who decide, oh, I definitely just only want to cover the big games because then I will get a bigger following, I'll get a higher listenership?
Well, they can't decide to do that, but that's obviously what many of them want to do.
Right.
But because there are 30 of them, it is very, very competitive.
Hmm.
So we actually have to audition at the beginning of each season, who's the best play-by-play announcer for any sport.
Mm.
And so the best people get the best slots. And the people who don't do quite so well pick up what we call the JV games, or they're like the second 11, or maybe even the third 11. So there's definitely a pecking order, and because
Okay.
it's student run,
Yeah.
the actual sports managers, there are two of them. They listen to all the auditions. They make the tricky decisions. They inform the students who actually has made the grade, and I don't envy them that job, because there are going to be usually
Mm.
25 students who are very disappointed,
Oh, well,
all of
yeah.
whom think they are the best people.
Yeah, well, you and I
Um,
both know what that's like with auditioning
yeah,
for school shows.
yes,
You know, you get
yes.
100
It's
turn
it's
up
it's
and there's
it's
only
really
30
really hard, isn't it?
spots.
And it's
Yeah,
hard
yeah.
enough for us to do that, isn't it, as
Yes,
teachers?
it
Yeah.
is. Um, and is there a way that students can progress up the ranks? So, yep, they might be on the
Yeah,
bench, but
yeah,
how
yeah.
do
It's
how do they
well,
move up?
generally it does work out that it's the seniors, it's the 17, 18-year-olds who do have the big varsity jobs, but that's not
Got it.
always the case.
Hmm.
Occasionally, somebody who is a junior, or the equivalent to first year A level, will manage to get in there as well. Um, but I think they kind of understand that the younger kids, they have to do an apprenticeship. They do the other games, they kind of understand how to make the equipment work. 'Cause of course, it's a different set of equipment, and they will make mistakes to begin with. The microphones are different, and it's quite tricky and scary. Um, Being in the middle of a huge stadium with the crowd screaming and the cheerleaders making bizarre noises, and it's quite off-putting. So they have to learn the craft really before they are given the opportunity to have broadcast to 5,000 people, for
Oh, it
sure.
sounds fantastic. I
It
wish I'd
is,
had these opportunities.
yeah, absolutely. And
It's
because of the games, we have the equivalent of county competitions. Well, there's state competitions. Indiana's got about 6 million people, so um, the the competitions which you'd have in cover the city and then the county, and then nationally in England, those things happen quite quickly in Indiana, because it's a slightly smaller population, um, and so we end up so the schools to win the competitions, they have their finals actually in the huge stadiums, which are actually the professional stadiums in Indianapolis. So the Colts Stadium and the Pacers Stadium, where there are tens of thousands of seats. And we get to go, and because our school is, it's a big school and it's successful at sports as well. I've been with my students to broadcast in those huge media spaces like Wembley. It's the size of Wembley,
yeah,
some of these things, and the kids get to go and broadcast in these extraordinary places. And of course, for a state final, there'll be a huge number of people listening to them. It's amazing, and
phenomenal
kind of very
opportunity.
daunting as well.
Yeah,
So they do need that experience before, that. I mean, it's terrifying if you think about it, that there might be 10,000 people listening to you. So they have to kind of earn that spot, for sure.
yeah. Wow, amazing.
Mm.
So yeah, right. This I think we need to just establish. So this is in college. This is phenomenal
Yeah,
opportunity,
yeah,
independence, facilities. This is the subject that they've opted for, or there's
yes.
hundreds of subjects, or this is an assessed subject. This is
Um,
co-curricular. How does this fit into college life?
so um, assessment in the US is actually very very different from the UK, even though that English and math are they have kind of national standardized tests right up until they're 17 or 18 years old. Um, they are, and they have the opportunity to do kind of the equivalent to A level exams, where they sit down and do written papers and so on. They don't have to actually do those written exams in particular subjects. Um, so some kids who want to go to the top universities will do that, but it's still not a necessity. They're still picked on basically their English and math scores and what they do in school generally. And one of the things that they do is what they have to write about and that they're interviewed about, and we write references about, are their leadership skills. So um, and for them to get scholarships, which of course is very important for a university education in America because they cost so much money.
Mm.
What the biggest thing they ask often in recommendations is what kind of leadership has this young person shown during their time as a high school student. So it, it's really the um, there's a lot of trust put into what an individual class teacher has to say about a student. And going back to specifically to talk about assessment, even though we have assessment guidelines and we have a basic framework for the areas of journalism and broadcasting that we cover, we are not moderated by an external agency. Basically, if I say something is worth 82%, then nobody challenges me. Um,
Wow.
yes, I know. I could not believe this when I first started teaching.
You were like, what now?
I
I'm
know.
sorry. Where's
I,
the what do I where's the boxes I need to tick? Sorry.
I
Where's
know.
the what no, sorry, where's the exam board? Where's that sheet? I need the form. Where's the top sheet?
Yeah, there is absolutely none of that. There's no visiting examiner for you to kind of get tense about and then argue with at some point.
Well, you don't even get the
And
opportunity to.
well, we never argue with examiners, obviously. So the GCA visiting examiners, the
Yeah,
A
yeah,
level
yeah.
examiners. I used to teach BTEC a lot as well. And
Hmm.
when they came in for a whole day, it was terrifying. Looking at the paperwork they wanted to see and so on. And of course,
Paperwork
we
before,
spent
paperwork
so much
after.
time, don't we,
Yes.
as UK teachers, getting all that stuff sorted and
Hmm.
teaching for the exam. We don't have any of that stuff. It's so
Wow.
liberating, really is liberating. And certainly my English and math colleagues, they are very jealous of me because their curriculum is very tight, like it is in the
Right.
UK.
Yeah.
Um, but for the option type subjects like radio, like TV, yearbook, we have a newspaper as well, which is fantastic. And if students want to, and drama and singing and music, and in fact, marching band is actually you get graded for that if you want to do that as a class. Um, people see real value in the non-academic subjects as well, traditionally non-academic subjects. So of course, anything to do with journalism is academic as well.
Mm.
But it is really liberating for a teacher not to have to worry about getting the assessment absolutely spot on for every assignment.
So there's yeah, so it's a real sense of trust, a
Yes.
level of trust and a level of it's just a freedom.
Yeah.
And I guess you can differentiate more to the individual student in that
Precisely. Yeah.
way,
So this.
play to their strengths.
I've been out of the UK for 7 years now, and I have forgotten the phrase that we used to use all the time. That assessment for learning is that you'd see where students were at the end of a class, and then kind of design what the next lesson was going to be about. And in the UK, sometimes it's really very difficult to do that because you have to move on to the next thing. You have to tick the next box. But what I do now, my next lesson is totally designed on what the individual student needs to do
Mm,
in order to get better. And of course, that's lovely, isn't it? Because you actually feel like you're doing the job that you trained to do, which is to actually help young people get better at the subject that they're doing with you.
mm.
I'm in my 60s now, and I I still love what I do. And I'm not sure I would still have that same love of teaching young people if I was restricted in some of the ways I used to be restricted back in the UK. Um,
Mm. That's really, really, really interesting. Um, yeah, that's it's interesting to think. Where will I be in 20
yeah,
years' time?
yeah,
And that is that. Yeah, that is really interesting. I mean, obviously, syllabi comes and changes every sort of 6 to 8 years, depending on your subject and what's going on in the
yeah,
world. And we're changing from letters, and then all of a sudden it's numbers, um, and the set texts might change, and then or you could change because you're like, right, I've taught that for a couple of years, I'm going to
yes,
switch and do this. But yeah, I mean, I guess your curriculum is has the freedom to evolve over time, and particularly with yourselves and the television department, you said,
Yeah.
I guess as technology evolves and changes, so can you.
Yes, I just want to throw in here also that
Yeah,
we are in control of those changes as well. So even obviously an individual teacher will adapt their schemes of work to fit into the way that they want to
yeah,
interpret the framework.
obviously.
I'm currently part of the review of our curriculum area. So for the whole Carmel area, so I'm working with teachers in other schools and so on. But we are actually the people who are defining what is going to be taught for the next 7 years in the journalism areas.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, so instead of the exam board or even a politician telling us what we're actually going to be teaching, we are given um, the opportunity to say what we want to be taught and how we want to teach it. So the working party that I'm in, there are about 8 of us. There's a principal, a head teacher. There's, I suppose, the equivalent to the advisor for the area, and teachers from different schools and different grade levels. And we were all kind of hammering out what it is that we need to do to adapt to 2023. Because of course, in journalism and the media generally, things move on so fast.
Mm,
So, and again, it's fantastically part of a
yeah,
system where we are making the changes; they're not being done to us.
that's great. And yeah,
Yeah.
so you're driving that from the
Yes.
inside,
Yeah.
which sounds like it makes sense.
Yeah. Hopefully. Hopefully.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I mean, I mean, I've been saying how wonderful all this is.
Mm,
It is very freeing, but of course, with that, we still have to work very long hours in order to keep
yeah.
on top of it.
So
And being part of a
what's your
working
normal
party,
day?
um,
What's your average? Well, I mean, I don't know.
yeah.
Teaching, there is no average day. Every day is completely different. But
So
how
we
does
are the
your normal
teaching
day
days
look?
from nine till 4,
Hmm.
and but because I have students broadcasting before school and after school, I go in probably a little bit earlier just to check that things are. I mean, they don't need me to get started. They don't need me to be there all the time.
Yeah.
But I am around there for those things. The thing which probably takes up the most time for me is traveling to away games with students because while they're quite happy setting things up in our own stadiums, obviously going to a different school has lots of health and safety risks. So there
Yeah.
has to be a member of staff that goes with them.
Right.
And we do all kinds of community activities as well. So a couple of weeks ago, um, we did a huge fundraiser for our local hospital, which is something we do um, every year. And we did 48 hours almost non-stop live broadcasting over the whole weekend, and kids in and out all the time. And of course, there are lots of things going on there. So I'm in the station for most of that time as well. So um, there are times when it's pretty intense and very long hours,
Yeah.
but it's kind of worth it. I mean, I think the students raised over $13,000 from people phoning in. Yes.
That's unbelievable. I've
It,
stopped
it,
saying wow, by the way. I realised that
it-
my go-to response was that's incredible and wow. And
yeah.
for the listeners, they'll be like, does the woman have no other vocabulary?
Yeah.
So I just held on to that one.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I did it
Yeah,
again.
it is difficult to comprehend.
Blown
Um,
away.
yeah, yeah. But I haven't actually said this, but I mean, obviously, I live in, or the school is in quite an affluent area.
Hmm.
So, but it is a public school. Oh, sorry,
Right.
but now by that I mean a state school.
Yeah.
It's run by the local government, sort of private school.
That
Um,
was going to be my next question. Is
right.
this like a one-off? So this particular school, 6,000 students,
Yeah.
amazing facilities, or is this every school in the US?
Certainly not every school in the US. For the area that I live in, there are probably 6 or 7 schools which are very similar to this one, and they are vast. So a large number of students can get the benefit of these things. But I'm not going to pretend that inner city Indianapolis schools, which are older, have got older buildings and so on, they don't all have the same resources that we do, unfortunately.
Mm,
Um, but and I guess many of those schools might be more akin to the kind of thing that we're used to in the UK, where funding is generally tighter. So
Mm. And I guess, you said that some of the funding obviously comes from the ticket sales of these,
yeah,
from the massive stadium. I
yeah.
presume that the stadiums aren't this large in all of the schools in the area or
No, but
vicinity.
while they're not as large, they will still have decent size numbers of seats going in there. So I would say that um, they've still got the opportunity to make a reasonable amount of income from doing that. But again, I guess because it's an affluent area, students parents have more disposable income, so probably more parents will come to support their students, their children as well. So yeah, as in the UK, the schools in the wealthy areas, they tend to get better, and they because they are nice and they're already in a slightly better place, and that system is flawed in just the same way as it is in the UK.
And how so you said it's from year 10 upwards,
Yeah,
your college. So how does entry work into the schools? Is it selected on area? Is it sort of
yeah,
local
it's it's
government
it's
that
it is
selects
your
where
area.
your child
Um,
goes, or is it exam? How does it work?
so if you live in the area, you go to your local high school. It's and our school is kind of oversubscribed, so I think it is possible for
Understandably.
yeah,
I'd go back to school now.
it is possible for some people to get in with special cases, as is the case in the UK.
Mm.
For example, teachers' children will be kind
So
of at the
there's a
top of
list
the
of criteria
yeah,
like there is in the
yeah,
UK,
yeah.
you know, as the crow
So
flies,
I'd say
disability.
it's kind of similar, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, because there's only one high school in a particular area,
Right.
you don't have that competition between schools. So
Mm.
the last place I worked was in Norfolk, and there were lots of small rural schools, but you could choose between maybe three or four of them. It was
Right.
feasible which ones you would go to, and there was terrible competition between the different
Mm.
schools, and whether you got 50% A to C or whatever what it's called now. I'm slightly beyond it, but if somebody got 10% better grades than you did, and then of course
Mhm.
your numbers went down, and that's that's not good for anybody really.
Okay, so that's the entry level. And then what about so you said, does it go up to year 13? So it
It
goes up to
does,
second
yeah,
year of sixth form.
yeah.
So what next after that then for your students
So
in
at my
radio? What's
school,
been your sort of success stories? Where do they go from there?
most of them will go on to universities, despite universities being very expensive. The but the, I, again at my high school, it's kind of norm, and many parents have already been to university, so it's that generational thing really. If your family have done it already, then it's kind of an expectation. So
Hmm.
the vast number of the students I teach will be going to college. In fact, there will just be a handful of um, the 200 kids that I teach will not go to will go straight into work after that.
Hmm.
Um, and they tend to go to local universities because generally they are cheaper. But they have very good reputations. You may have heard of Purdue University. A lot of the astronauts went there.
Oh wow.
So a lot of the kids, particularly ones who are into engineering, they'll move on to
Mm.
there. But we have a couple of universities that have a great reputation for broadcasting. So many of my students will go on to those kind of
Mm.
colleges as well.
Brilliant. And do any of them end up sort of through the glass with the media box, getting
Well,
work and going straight into sort of apprenticeships or like trainee internships?
yes, many of them do. I mean, I've been there 7 years now, so there are
Mm.
a number of students who have done their 4 year degree at one of the places, and they're starting out on their first jobs. So they'll be on ESPN. They might
Wow,
start on sideline reporters for a minor sport
fantastic.
perhaps, but there are a number of students that I can see already have made excellent progress in what they want to do.
And that's
And the
what it's
radio
all
station,
about.
yeah,
Yeah.
the radio station's got a number of uh, alumni who are very well-known figures across America. So because it's been going since 1963, we've got quite a long list of people that people in the UK will never have heard of, but they're equivalent to John Humphreys on Radio 4. That kind of figure.
So amazing success, and I think to answer our question, is radio dead? Very much not.
Absolutely not.
Very much alive. And do young people even care? It seems that they are absolutely thriving and grabbing the opportunities that are coming their way, and so much sort of maturity and independence that they're kind of allowed through that.
Yeah, and we've not even had time to talk about podcasts, which, of course, when you think about radio nowadays, is the upcoming area, and half my
Absolutely.
kids do that. But maybe another episode, Natalie.
Maybe another episode. So do their live shows then become podcasts, much like Teachers Talk Radio?
Yes, they do actually.
Afterwards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but some kids concentrate on just producing podcast type things with
Yeah.
high production values as well. So.
Oh, well, thank you so much for joining me this evening, Dominic. It's been I just keep going, wow, that's incredible, fantastic.
Well, it's been lovely talking to you again,
It's
Natalie.
been really fascinating. So thanks a lot, and a huge thank you to the Teachers Talk Radio family for their support with the show this evening. And I always like to mention a show that I've recently listened to on Teachers Talk Radio. So highly recommended. Ben Thomas was on yesterday, and he was talking about a day in the life of a core curriculum leader. So heads of departments, do have a listen. Thanks a lot for listening to my show, and I look forward to speaking to you all in a fortnight's time.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.